will yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Now let me recognize Senator Sullivan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen. I want to talk the issue of Taiwan and our policy there. Mr. Secretary, 20 years ago, President Bush had said in an interview that the full force of the U.S. military would come and defend Taiwan. A prominent U.S. senator in an op-ed was very critical. He said, in this case, President Bush's inattention to detail has damaged the U.S. credibility with our allies, sown confusion throughout the Pacific Rim. Words matter, this prominent senator said. Of course, that was Senator Biden last week or 2 weeks ago. His words have dramatically sown confusion on this very sensitive issue. I was just out in the Indo-PACOM region. Men and women in the military are doing a great job preparing for contingencies, military contingencies. But the president said we're going to defend Taiwan publicly. Is that our new policy?
The White House clarified that the president wasn't trying to establish new policy. I think the policy remains that it was established under the Taiwan Relations Act.
So the president's statement was incorrect?
I will defer to the White House.
Well, you're the Secretary of Defense for policy, so.
From the White House, the view is that our policy remains that under the Taiwan Relations Act, which is that we are prepared to ensure that Taiwan can defend itself and that we also have the capabilities to deter and prevent coercion across the strait.
So do you agree with President Biden 20 years ago when he criticized President Bush, saying that his statement and his inattention to detail, words matter, has damaged U.S. credibility with our allies and sown confusion throughout the Pacific Rim?
I see no evidence that our allies are confused about our resolve on Taiwan or China or anything else. I've engaged with our Indo-Pacific allies and partners repeatedly. They know that the department and the U.S. government treats China as the pacing challenge, that Taiwan is the pacing scenario. We're doing everything to get after that.
Let me talk about that. This is our budget relative to China's budget. When National Democrats get into office, unfortunately, they cut defense spending. You see the blue is our cuts during the Obama years. The blue up there is the increase that Republicans and the Trump administration put to our budget. But one thing's certain, China keeps spending 10, 14% increases in GDP growth. Can I see the next slide? So the one issue I keep hearing about with our allies is this: the prioritization of our military. If you look at the Biden budget, $6 trillion budget, the two agencies that they actually cut, they're proposing to cut, is DOD and Homeland Security. Those are cuts. That's your budget. That's what matters to the Chinese and our allies more than anything. That's President Biden's budget, that's Bernie Sanders' budget, that's Senator Schumer's budget. But something happened recently, Mr. Secretary. This committee and the House committee rebuked that pretty dramatically, the budgets that we have put forward in the NDAA, in the House version of the NDAA, increases defense spending by a real increase of 3%. That would be moving from about $715 billion to $740 billion. Does the department now agree with what, in a very bipartisan way, this committee and the House Armed Services Committee said, we shouldn't do that? That's a bad message to the Chinese. Do you agree with what we did here on this committee? Are you going to change your budget submission?
It's obviously within Congress's prerogative to do exactly what you did. I would just say from the department's perspective, China is the #1 pacing challenge. The Secretary of Defense has been laser focused on it. Our budget,
but
was oriented around it.
Do you agree with it? Do you agree with this? Do you agree with what we did in the committee? I know it's our prerogative, of course. I'm asking your opinion.
I agree that we should be spending significant resources to get after China as the pacing challenge.
General, what about you? I know it's a difficult issue because you have to support the president's budget. I know that the members of the uniformed military don't support it, but they have to constitutionally, I get that. But in your personal opinion, would you rather have the House and the Senate's $740 billion top line or the Biden administration's $715 billion top line?
my personal opinion is yes, given the modernization bills and the force design and force structure challenges that we're going to have in the future. I agree.
With the 740?
Predictable, sustainable is the most important to the Department of Defense. But when you look at the modernization bills that are coming forward in the coming years, the 740 is a better number than what was proposed, in my personal opinion.
Thank you, General, for your honesty on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Now let me recognize via WebEx Senator Duckworth.